Weimer. I am one of the assistant directors of planning and development, and I oversee zoning. And I am here with my colleagues who I will ask them to introduce themselves, and then do you guys mind if we just do introductions? I'm sure we'll be working together in the future, so
yeah, sure.
Might as well get to know each other a little bit. I guess I'll have Michael Wade.
Sure. I'm Michael Wade. I'm Chief Planner for Code Amendments, working under Megan in the zoning division. So generally, we're the team that a topic will come up from the community or from a council member, or just internally we'll say this really isn't working in the code. What can we do about it? So we study it, we make recommendations, we have all sorts of input, etc. That's normally what we do. Tonight I'll be talking about our big zoning reform. It's kind of a massive, ultimate code amendment tonight. So, but I'm Michael Wade. It's nice to meet you.
I'm Robert Vega. I'm with the council member in Urbanism's office.
Hi everybody, my name is Andrea Wedrada. I'm the Deputy Director of Zoning with Planning and Development. Anything that has to do with zoning, from code amendments, zoning changes, even permitting, that would be us. Thank you for coming, thank you for having us in your space and allowing us to introduce the zoning reform, and also like limit state laws. I understand there's a little bit of interest there.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Galena, council member for District 6, and I'm thankful that all of you all are here to get some time to learn about our zoning reform and also the Senate bills that just passed.
Jake Rojo, Planner 2. I work under Michael Wade, part of the Code Amendment team. Sometimes I help out with the current plan, with development review, and just here to answer any questions you guys may have. Thanks for having me.
Jennifer Allgaier, one of the managers in zoning. I work on a little bit on the permitting side, a little bit on the zoning change side, so deal a lot with SB 840 and thank you.
My name is Ryan Moore. I'm the president of Friends of Bachman Lake.
Yep. I'm Bruce Schrader. I'm the secretary of Friends of Bachman Lake. Michael Cintron, communications, Friends of Bachman Lake.
Susanna Brown Grant.
Nicole Vilches with Friends of Bachman Lake and West Luffield neighborhood.
And Wayman Young, also with the Friends of Bachman Lake, and pretty much just a resident around this area. We don't really have a neighborhood association yet, so working on it.
Okay, well, so we understand that you guys would like to hear a little bit about zoning reform and our, that big project that will be moving forward, and then that you guys maybe have some questions about SB 840 and SB 15. We have some presentations prepared, so I think maybe we could just go through them, maybe not read every slide, but kind of hit some key points to leave you guys time for questions or just discussion.
Can we leave you an email, or can we just go on a list so we can put an email down if we want copies of those slides?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. We can probably do some, is there a sign-in sheet?
No, that's what I was asking.
We will do a makeshift sign-in sheet.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, if you guys are welcome to leave your emails, and if, reach out to us if you have questions after this, or if you need copies of materials, we can certainly provide those. Do you have a preference what item you'd like to hear about first? So we'll be respectful of everyone's time because we could talk for hours, but we won't do that to you.
I think we can tell you what we're interested in,
Yeah,
but we don't know what it falls into.
That would be awesome. Yeah, let's just kind of have a chat.
That matter to us.
Yeah. And maybe we don't even need the presentations. I don't know. Let's just,
To the extent that it falls within your presentation, I think that would be beneficial.
Okay.
If you guys want to write your names, contact information, I'm going to hand around some pens and some paper to write on.
All right.
So some of our areas of interest are going to be things like the area directly north of Northwest Highway. We had multiple issues with a car auction site that has tried to extend their SUP, and this is they are just not good neighbors. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
It's not the type of business that we want along Northwest Highway, and
That's coming from Joe Carrion, who's been a long time member of the community. He's asked for, he's a part of our board as well, but he's also the president of the Bachman Highway Association and the DISD trustee for the area. So that's the type of, we don't know how much we have in our power to change something like that. We would definitely, don't know if that falls into the zoning thing. We continue to be concerned about the cement plants in the far northwest corner of District 6 and the damage that that's doing from an environmental and health perspective in the area. I think that maybe the city has woken up a little bit more about that issue, but we were actually, and Ryan can speak to this a little bit more in terms of kind of what we were trying to do at the state level to see if we could get, you talk about opportunities for development and housing, if that weren't cement plants. I mean, you're right next to the Trinity, amazing green spaces, and the area in Irving that is adjacent is all residential. I mean, it seems like Dallas is slapping our neighbors in the face with allowing those cement trucks and cement plants there. And then I think, once again, proximity to the lake, and this isn't news to Laura either, you know, we don't understand, and we requested as part of the, what was the process that just happened with the, not rezoning, but where general areas were, is the area directly to the west of the lake, which is currently the Northwest Transfer Station, so basically sanitation, and the DART station. We feel that at this point, the way Dallas is changing, that those are, once again, opportunities to revisit, you know, is that really the best use of that land, especially given that it's on a transit line? This whole area of Dallas, we've worked with planning, you know, after, what do they call it, the Black Swan incident of the tornado, and the opportunities that existed along Denton for transit-oriented development at the Walnut Hill Station and the Royal Station and the Bachman Station, but really from an economic development perspective, there's been no traction. So we would like to see more opportunities for the area for housing and economic development, and we think that there is the land to make that happen.
So like, to piggyback onto that, so my dad used to have a shop over at 2431 Shorecrest. And that whole area was owned by American Agro Products, and it just kind of sits there. They were using it for automotive repair. Right now, I don't know what it's being used for. You see fences up there, you see guys working late at night, but that's a big opportunity over there. They've got a maker place over there. They've got a CrossFit a place over there, and that whole area is just prime because it's right across the street from Bachman Lake, and that's real prime for like apartment complexes. Like you saw what they did over at White Rock, over there off of Lothar. If you go to Lothar, you have developments they're putting up left and right. They can't build houses fast enough over there. And so something similar to that, Bachman has the potential for that. But it's area that's being squandered, and that's not being used. I mean, you have a bank over there. You have everything that's within walking distance. But the problem is, a lot of it isn't walkable. So you go down Shorecrest, you know, Shorecrest is still kind of a mess. They're still working on that. Potholes and whatnot, of course. And
so I guess with SB 840 and 15, we're going to be the opposite of what a lot of people's concerns are. A lot of people don't want, you know, apartments going up in their single family neighborhood. We want a lot of stuff going up, and so we see it more as an opportunity. So learning more about that, so that when we're talking to, you know, retail people and developers, we can kind of grease those conversations with, you know, we have planning that knows all these things and stuff like that.
That's an excellent point by Ryan, because I'd like to know a little more about what these bills actually create, because the only debate we hear is the NIMBY crowd that says, I don't want this in my single family residential. But being in the tornado area from Walnut Hill train station eastward to Rock Bank, there is so much poorly used land. A dollar store here, a smattering of a massage parlor there, an empty spot that used to be owned by Guard, where it would end prostitution. And what would be really cool is if there's a concept of a phased test zone. say we can try multiple types because we have this whole vast stretch right before we get to the single family home residences. And yeah, the airport might say, well, we can't build taller than that. But yeah, you can build 3 stories or something, I'm sure of that. So I think you can do the way they're doing the facility on Royal, the new apartment facility for, I forget what type of house.
It's the PFC project.
Market rate.
The
Yeah.
dark one, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was almost just thrown away, and we just kind of sat and said, why not? So, you know, if you have the interest and the incentives to do that. So rather than be the NIMBY crowd, I'd like to see how we can counter that argument in an area that needs all compromise, without turning over what already exists. We have a lot of space to do that.
And to piggyback off of that also, so if you go down Walnut Hill, there's sidewalks that just stop right after you get to the intersection of like Webb Chapel and Walnut Hill. You know, there's broken, dilapidated sidewalks. If they could repair those sidewalks on those sides, and then right next to that, you've got the North Haven Trail. But you have no way of linking up to it. I mean, you have to go off of Monroe, and Monroe doesn't really have good usable sidewalks, and so that's one of the things, just trying to be able to get there to get to all the different trails.
It'd be good to know with the zoning reform changes if the classifications are changing, just to have an idea of what could be pitched if, you know, single family becomes its own thing, or townhomes, or we have more multi-use classifications. So that'd be good to hear about.
And I guess one of the big things I'm worried about is, on the negative side of that, I can understand. The other thing is, I live in an area where we have apartment complexes, and we have situations where people are running illegal businesses out of the apartment complexes. I've got a situation where I've got 17 parked cars right here along El Centro, Almazan, and Bolivar, and they just sit there for days at a time. And the guy's sitting there, he's just repairing on the cars. He puts signs down that say, "We buy junk cars." And I've sit there and reported these kind of things, and they don't get taken care of. So that's one of the worries that we have, is about enforcement of the different types of parking problems that they have. What was the other thing I was going to mention?
That's like that auction, the issue that we have with the car auction place to the north of the lake.
Where is that?
Right next to the school.
Is that off the Run River Connection Zone, or?
Yeah,
It's
just
the-
west.
It's right on Lake Shore Drive, I think is what it's called. There's a massive car auction place in there between, I forget what the name is.
So like right where Lakefield is, where Tricolor Motors is, where all the different shops over there, they've got something going on over there.
Well, they bring like 18-wheeler trucks in with all the cars. But anyways, it's the same issue in terms of
Right.
how do you enforce the zoning? How do you enforce an SUP? How do you create good neighbors?
Right. And so that was one of the things they were talking about in parking enforcement and transportation. They came out with ordinance 24.2173, which was designed to go after these people. Because one of the signs that you have with junk cars is there's no registration stickers on them. Sometimes they'll try to obscure the VINs. They'll park them real close to each other. They'll take the license plates off. Anything that makes it harder for DPD and parking services to try to identify them. And so I haven't seen anybody actually trying to enforce that ordinance. I put in tons of tickets. I said, hey, these cars don't have any kind of tags on them. It doesn't matter about the 24-hour thing. Go after them for the other stuff. And that was the whole reason y'all put that in place way back in last August. So they passed that ordinance and they said, we're going after them, and they haven't gone after them. Another thing I was going to say is about the permitting process. I know that $4 is supposed to make it a little bit more streamlined, but I have run across issues in other meetings where people are telling me that they've got developers that are doing unscrupulous things. You've got a situation over in West Dallas where they've got a development over there where the guy's trying to build it as fast as he can, and he's cutting all sorts of corners and he's doing dangerous stuff. Like he was trying to tie his lights into the city lights and wound up blowing out the entire grid. You got a situation where the people are sitting there parking their cars, and the guy didn't want to put open driveway approaches in there, so he just put curbs. And so people have to drive over a curb to park their cars. You know, stuff like that. Just trying to make sure that they keep on top of these guys for the permits, definitely.
We'll let you present at this point and listen.
That's a lot of stuff. I mean, between Michael and I, we made some notes and bullet points, and hopefully we can try to hit on them. Before talking about planning stuff, I do want to hit on just real quick about the violations that you've reported. Have you been doing that through the 311 app?
Yes, recently
Okay.
I
I know that code compliance usually says that, so they have a record of it.
Yeah.
And then do you ever hear back, they're just saying no violation? Or?
So there's an email chain. So the way it works was I put 17 of them in about 2 weeks ago, and they sat there and they said they were tagging the vehicles, and then they said they were removed by the owners. And then I go back there this week, and they're still there.
Okay, so they get removed, but then it's just a recurring.
They're saying that it's the shell game, but it doesn't look like these have moved an inch.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so there's something else that might be going on there.
Yeah. And that's separate department, so we don't have any control over that. We do coordinate with them regularly. We have several standing meetings, so I will mention this to them and just, say, hey, is this on y'all's radar? I know one thing they tell us that often it may appear like nothing's happening, but they have a whole process that they are going through, to try to gain compliance before it gets to the next phase of ticketing and ultimately community prosecution if necessary. So it's my understanding, just like from the outside, but in our conversations we've had, that it's often a unseen process that may take a while. So, but I will mention, you said the parked cars, what street is it on?
So there is El Centro. So the hot spots are 95. I even know it up by heart. 9500 El Centro,
Okay.
3600 Boulevard, 3600 Almazan, and that's the hot spots where there's and I saw the guy today. He had a bandit sign sitting there. I was picking it up, and he was like, "Hey." And so I know who the bandit sign guy is. And so they put the bandit signs all around the area. This was on Almazan, and they just sit there and they were fixing on cars. They didn't care that anybody was watching them. So.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like some different park companies.
Look into it and maybe escalate with,
Yeah,
if he has the email, maybe you can send it.
Yeah, he usually emails us.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wayman's like.
Wayne
Wayne works for free.
I think he has more 311s in the system than anyone in Dallas.
Yeah. So Guinness Book of World Records for the most.
Yeah, well.
Okay, yeah, we'll bring that up. Bring that up and just make sure it's on their radar.
Appreciate it.
What if I start with the zoning reform? Because I think it's going to touch on the least of the things brought up. And as we move into SB 840 and then more conversation, we can bring all of this back up again and have room for conversations. Let me, it's just going to be kind of a basics.
Okay. Yeah. No. Do we need a login or anything?
Let's see. Yes.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind. While she's setting up, I see a lot of you have picked up the handout and executive summary of the code diagnostic, and we've got copies of the code diagnostic over there. Feel free to pick them up and look at them. We just want to keep them with us by the end of the meeting. But this is going to be pretty basic. Has anyone been keeping up with the zoning code reform, first of all?
For Dallas?
No, zoning reform, different thing.
I read a little bit of it last night. I forget which Senate bill it was, but I was looking at it like they were talking about B&Bs and stuff like that.
Okay, not Senate bill either. It's totally separate thing.
But that was the state one?
Right, not a state thing at all. This
Okay.
is just us doing a full zoning code rewrite. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so it sounds like some familiarity, some not familiarity. Let me pull this up. And I'm glad you brought that up. This will help me understand.
Yeah, I had notes. But
That's all right. Okay. So we're going to talk about the zoning code reform. This is separate from state bills, state Senate bills. This is separate from Forward Dallas. It's connected to all of these. All of these things overlap and interact. But this is the city of Dallas going into our specific municipal rules about what's allowed to be built and where, and saying, does this match what we need today in 2025, 2035, 2045, et cetera. So zoning, of course, I think we're all familiar with zoning, but it's the rules. Forward Dallas was brought up, those are policies, that's the vision. A professor of mine in urban and regional planning grad school said the comprehensive plan is the meal plan. It's going to be Italian, it's going to be 3-course. We're going to have salad and an Alfredo-based entree and then a cold dessert. Zoning is the ingredients. How do you make it? What exactly does it look like? So, by state law, in our state municipal code, the zoning is in accordance with the comprehensive plan. There's still a great variety of what you can do, but the Forward Dallas conversation was the broad community conversation. This is getting a little bit more detailed and a little bit more technical. So, of course, land uses, there was a lot of visioning that happened during Forward Dallas. These are the rules. So exactly how far does this kind of building need to be from the street? Exactly how tall can things be? Exactly what do the districts look like? And then it also deals with a lot of stuff that we see behind the scenes, approval processes, all the different processes. So really, as we're going about this, I conceptualize it as two different buckets. There's the zoning code as a tool and zoning code as achieving policy. They're the same thing. We see it so often as a tool because we have to deal with it every day. Very often at the end, when you see something being built or not being built, or being built badly, etc., you're seeing kind of, is this enacting policy? Zoning, we've had zoning since the 1920s. We have regulations on the books from 1929, massive updates every so often in the 40s, 60s, and 80s. Really what we're dealing with right now is a framework that came about in the 60s. That was our chapter 51. We're in chapter 51A now, but a lot of the concepts are the same. It's just sort of elaborated on. The main themes, it's wild to go back and look at zoning texts from the 20th century. It's not fun. Some of it is cool, some of it is nerdy, some of it is explicitly racist. Some of it is, you can tell that these people writing this have been through a couple of world wars, and what they want is calm. What they want is control. What they want is exact predictability of exactly what can be built next to them, that kind of a thing. It made sense for the era, some of it, not the segregation, not what it caused in a lot of communities. But these are principles that we're trying to update in the 21st century. We've moved forward as a society, we need to make sure our laws reflect that. So, it's produced a code through all of these updates that has a lot of issues. It's overly complex. It's hard for us as staff to implement it, hard for our community to understand what's going on. Misalignment, again, not just with Forward Dallas, but with everything that our community goes through. We're a different city in the year 2025 than we were in the year 1980, 1960, 1940. We have far more residents who want different things out of the built environment. Outdatedness overall, pretty much the same thing, except more specific. What are we wanting out of transportation, environmental preferences, etc. How we craft our built environment is affecting all of these things. Inaccessibility. This is really geared toward some developers who know how to work the code, some politicians and appointed officials. It can be very non-transparent. It can engender a lack of trust rather than more trust in government. It can leave a lot of people scratching their head. How did that happen? It doesn't make any sense. And then unpredictability, excessive politicization again. The code as we have it right now includes a lot of points of discretion, a lot of places where even though a certain land use policy or zoning code is adopted at one point, it could change course dramatically. So you might even say, I think I understand the zoning of this place, and by the time it's done, there's a new custom plan development district that doesn't look like what you thought it was going to be, etc. So we are going to do this a little bit. Our three sort of guiding principles, there are a lot of principles from what makes a good code. We want it simple, we want it to make sense, we want it to be cohesive and coherent. We want it clear, we want it accessible, we want to make sure that everyone can understand what's going on, and future ready. We're not just making a code for today, we want to make it for 2045. We're trying to, we understand that the laws we put on the books today are going to affect our kids and our grandkids, and what do we want to leave to them? So, generally speaking, Andrea, Megan, myself, Jacob, and others are all working on this project from the staff and facilitation side. Camiros is a consultant that's doing the lamplight at midnight writing of the zoning code. They're the ones who are bringing a lot of national expertise to it, decades of expertise in zoning. And then Zoe Communications Agency is our engagement sub-consultant. And even just today, we had a great meeting about our engagement plan.
Has Camiros done other large cities?
They have. They've done Charlotte. What other cities have they done?
They did Trenton in New Jersey.
I don't know how large that, I don't know that they've done something.
One in Charlotte where they work with the same combination of a comprehensive plan that is place type like ours, and then we follow that zoning reform. They've done way more, but they keep on working.
So there's a variety. I don't know if it adds up to 1.3 million. By numbers, we could be the big city. We're a different kind of city, of course. We've got kind of city in the middle, a lot of suburban style outside, etc. And all of those are being factored into what kinds of districts we're creating and how we're managing land use. Can everyone hear me okay too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That company has specifically hosted some of these, like Zoom meetings, right?
Oh, sure. They've done it
Okay,
in
I
person.
think I went to one of theirs. I was like, because I know that they were talking about all the cities that they were doing. So
Absolutely. Yeah, they've done it in person. They had several community meetings. They kind of divided the city up into quadrants for that first part as they crafted the diagnostic, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then they held virtual meetings where you could sign up for a half hour, just one-on-one with them, and talk about your neighborhood, talk about zoning, whatever. So we've got goals with the zoning reform. Again, I've talked about implementing Forward Dallas 2.0. Again, that's the general vision, but there are a lot of ways to do that. Organizing the code, make it user-friendly, predictable, consistent. Housing is a big priority. We want housing options. We need housing that matches lifestyles for people today. And then making sure it's in great places for people and that we're creating good neighborhoods for people. And then affordability. Capital A affordability is people who are making less than some of their neighbors, need homes that they can afford, and then just affordability for middle class working folks as prices increase. That has a lot to do with what barriers the city is putting up toward housing.
Just one quick question. So do y'all ever have any like plans on the city as far as like land value taxes, stuff like that, where you've got people that have properties, but they're just kind of squatting on and waiting for the market to get the sweet point, and like maybe taxing them on that if they don't develop it the right way or don't develop it at all?
And we don't do that. I've heard about that. Different strong towns talk about that, and others. That's it's a topic that's been coming up more and more as we've realized the implications on our revenue, our city revenue of land use. And so I think that's out of our department, but it's an idea that we're looking at vetting, and it can make sense. I think there's a variety of perspectives on it, but that gets more into the financial side of things. It's out of my side of things a little bit. It's a good thing to talk about though, and I'm glad that the overlap between the city's financial situation and our land use policies is being talked about. That's really good. Sustainability and resilient development, again, we're trying to craft these rules for buildings that will affect our children and grandchildren going forward, and then of course environmental sustainability, making sure we're living in harmony with the world that we need. Reducing dependency on special approvals. Dallas has a code that's uniquely dependent on special approvals. So many things are discretionary, where very often if you go to another city, things are done by right. There are standards in place, so you've got to check the boxes, A, B, C, D, E. If you don't, then it's a no. Or go to the Board of Adjustment for variances, that kind of a thing. But overall, our development process is to get slow, to get mired in a lot of conversation, just because there's so many special approvals possible. And then again, increasing transparency on development approvals. So a little bit more specific. I'm going to tease you with this. We don't have the specifics yet because Camiros is working on that draft right now. And I'll jump forward and give you the good stuff right now. We're looking at that draft hopefully by the end of next spring to be public. We'll take it to decision makers. We'll take it around, they call it the road show, taking it all around the city, anywhere we're invited and anywhere that we proactively go, especially to folks who aren't typically interested in this or aren't typically engaged in this kind of thing. So we're talking about a new chapter, again, zoning and subdivision. Right now we're talking about writing the text. We're not talking about a map amendment at this point. So 51A is in place. It'll stay in place. We may need to do a code amendment around SB 40 and 15, that kind of a thing. There might be some utilitarian things, but we're still on 51A. We're talking about writing a new chapter over here, and then we'll figure out how to implement it on the map. We just want it logical and comprehensive. Again, since obviously since the 20s, but even since the 80s, we've had so many code amendments that have produced a real spaghetti code that doesn't always make sense, and things are redundant, things are spaced out throughout all the code and hard to work on. So we want something comprehensive and sensible. That's the first thing. Fine-tuning zoning districts. So I'd encourage you to look at the diagnostic, but overall, yes, we are looking at more mixed-use districts, smaller districts where there can be single-family home, there can be a fourplex, there can be a corner shop, something like that. And again, that's in addition to single-family only restaurants, single-family only districts. I'm hungry now, it's dinner time. And a lot of the more standard districts that we already have that are a little more exclusive. So we want to implement more creative and more up-to-date districts like that. Updating standards, again, these are the details. These are exactly what does building height mean and why. Exactly where do you start measuring the building from? Some of these technical things that I see Jennifer sweating about in her office from day to day and trying to explain to a developer why they have to start measuring from this point and not this point. All of that stuff matters. All of that determines, really cumulatively, it determines how good of a government we can be. A good code means good government, and we want to do that. Clarifying administration, just making sure that when there are discretionary approvals, it's clear, the process is clear. Integrating illustrations and implementing a web-based platform. So it's not just a very PDF-like thing on the internet, but it can be more interactive. And you know, there are a lot of tools out there. Some of the really flashy ones are
Arcus.
Are what?
Arcus.
Arcus?
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say was some of them bring more problems than they're worth.
Argus.
Exactly. But Critics is one that we've looked at, and others, and we want to make sure that it's the best for the long term going forward. So, and then updating affordability incentives, we are looking at our MIHDB program and how that can be updated, especially in light of SB 40 and environmental protections and neighborhood protections in light of environmental nuisances as well, which I notice communities dealt with, unfortunately. A quick note on the timeline. So we've gone through the kickoff, we've gone through the diagnostic and public outreach, sort of initial public outreach, that should say. That's really when we were having those meetings and we were talking, especially to the day-to-day users of the code, the architects, the realtors, etc. We're in preparation of initial draft code. This says November 25 to 26. We would love, if possible, to make that shorter. This could be a couple-year timeline, could go more. My job as a project manager is to keep everyone on, schedule the meetings, get the emails going, making sure that we are giving and getting the information that we need and keeping this on track. We have a new employee who just came from, he worked for a county in Florida, Justin.
Oh, yeah.
Which county? Florida.
Yeah.
They updated their comprehensive plan and their zoning code at the same time. It took almost a decade. And you know, they've got one of the flashy zoning codes now. It's on the web, etc. But they're just now, after that process, they're working on implementing it and teaching all the staff about it, etc. So these things just take a long time, and that's okay. It's okay. I tell myself it's okay. So there will be, generally speaking, there's going to be a first draft. That's going to be Camiro's throwing it all at the wall, mixing it up, trying to come up with something great, and then they'll come shop it around the neighborhoods, bring community leaders into it, and say, you know, let's redline it together. What's not working in this? What could be better in this? And that's going to be summer of 26. Then they'll go back into their cave, and things get murkier in the time, and we're not sure. It depends on what the red lines look like. If it's, you know, this is trash, throw it away, start again. Could be a longer timeline. If it's not, you hit the nail on the head somehow, adopt it immediately. It could be shorter. During this time, Zoe Communications Agency will be out guiding us and leading us proactively in engaging. They're a really great community-based Dallas-based organization. Right now, we're in this phase one of what is zoning. I know some groups, like the Dallas Housing Coalition, is doing their zoning 101s. We just want to let people know that zoning exists. It affects you. Please pay attention. DallasZoningReform.com. And then it's moving into a more targeted sort of engagement. Geographically targeted, demographically targeted, and they're doing a great job at bringing together a lot of different groups of people, but also paying a lot of attention to individual issues. And then driving participation, we really want people not only to consistently talk to council members, talk to planning commissioners, etc., but when we put out this draft code, show up, check it out. It's nerdy, but it's fun. That's why we're all here, and it affects everyone. So check it out, weigh in. There's going to be surveys. Again, we're going to be out in the community and then talking to your decision makers. Meanwhile, we are talking to arts organizations, we're talking to a lot of groups, and so the plan is just to inundate everyone with opportunities to weigh in on the draft. So that's the rush version. It's not November 10th, it's November 13th. But I think I'm happy to take questions now. I wonder too if kind of after some maybe clarification questions, we go through SB 840 and SB 15 and then open it up for a bigger conversation, things that we didn't address in the formal presentations. But yeah.
I guess the only question I have is, so like in the situation of sidewalks, Dallas has a thing where it was an old code that came out that said that the owner of the property is responsible for maintaining the sidewalks. Now, it might have made sense back in the 40s and 50s when concrete was dirt cheap, but like now we've got things like the what do you call it, the repair program with the city of Dallas, 50/50. They were going to charge me $2,800 to repair my sidewalks and my thing, and I was like, $2,800 is a lot of money, no matter what income class you're at. And so I found out that other cities know all about this too, and sidewalks don't ever get fixed. They're broken up, they're missing, stuff like that. And so like Colorado and parts of LA, they've been talking about and implementing making the city responsible for all sidewalks in an area. And I was wondering, is that in your purview, or is that something that the city council would have to draft a resolution on?
That would be well outside of our purview, yeah.
Okay.
I think that would fall with the sidewalks master plan. They voted on that a few years back, and I remember it has like a list of where the city would practically go and improve the sidewalks.
Right, and that was part of ARCIS.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're working close with transportation. A lot of your concerns are transportation related, which I love because I'm a transportation go like this. So we'll let them know, and if there's anything, we'll find out how. I know that they put a hierarchy on the sidewalk list.
Right.
And I don't know if they would visit that or something like that, or maybe.
I think it's every 10 years.
Presentation or something.
Yeah, they do it like every 10 years, and they put the criticality on there. And so there's a whole map, and they show you, and it's like some things it's like this is on our attention list, and then some of them it's not on the needs list at all, but it needs to be. So.
I live in one of the focus areas that they've got in that plan, and I see them doing work. From the ground level, it seems haphazard, and then you go on that plan, and you're like, oh, this is why, this is what's going on. I kind of get it. But
right.
Yeah, I think it's unbelievably expensive to do all that. That's not an excuse, but it is kind of, okay, this is why it's so slow, and they've got focus areas. And,
Yeah.
I would also say that, again, we're zoning, the responsibility to install the new sidewalks or repair ones is always with the new developer. So that's also something that we need to be mindful of. That's why sometimes it takes a little bit longer. We put it in police, we talk to them, we usually ask for more than what is minimum per code. We're paying sidewalk components. But that's also something that I understand, like when it comes to neighborhoods, obviously it's different, but when it comes to commercial corridors and stuff, usually development kind of like helps improve the sidewalks.
Okay.
any, I guess, kind of clarification level questions, and then I'll turn it over to Megan. All right. Megan?
All right. Thank you. All right, before I dive into the bills, I will touch on a couple of questions that came up when we were chatting before. One of them was about the SCP for the auto auction.
Yeah, it's just different. It's obviously must be zoned to allow for that to happen there. However,
that case actually was mine. That SUP for the
Okay.
So if it makes you feel better, one of the conditions of that SUP, when those 18 wheels are allowed to come, it's only twice a week, and it happens outside of the prime time rush hours for the school that it's right next to. So that's drop-offs and pickups. So that's morning drop-offs, afternoon pickups, and we're pretty strict with them about that. That they have to be a good neighbor, like you said. But yeah, it's not great that there's a school next to an auto auction, next to multifamily residential, and that is a really great example of how PDs are not great for our zoning. That area is actually PD, so that's not our base zoning. So a developer came in and created this as an industrial district. Over time, the land next to it was bought. Next to it was for multifamily residential, and one of the problems with that is that a school can be built there because we don't have schools by right yet. We're looking to get into that with code reform. So yeah, it's a hodgepodge. It's not a great hodgepodge. I totally agree how that it's hard to be a good neighbor when you're a school next to an auto auction, next to the airport, next to an apartment. But one of the complaints about traffic with the 18-wheelers, we do our very best, and it's not always perfect, but if it does make you feel better, we do have certain time slots where the 18-wheelers are allowed to come.
Yeah, I know that was included in the write-up for that. But to Wayman's point on what he sees elsewhere, it's not followed.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, we can send you photos day in and day out where they have.
That would be very
trucks
helpful.
Parked, but that goes to 311. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't go to you
Yeah.
guys.
No, it
And so
doesn't.
you don't know that the people are not following the PD or,
Yeah, the conditions.
they're not honoring their
the SEP
agreement.
conditions.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get with my team on that, and I'm really sorry about that. But yeah, that case, I had it's not great. It was not a great case to have because everybody's always telling me like, hey, this is when they're supposed to be. This is when the 18-wheelers are allowed to
We
come.
didn't want it renewed. It shouldn't have been renewed, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, and we can connect more on that if you want.
Okay. I got Jill involved.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, there is a process to have an SUP revisited if it really is, starting to be a nuisance. There is an opportunity to get with your council member about having a hearing authorized to reconsider the SUP. But if it was recently renewed,
Yes,
it was okay. Yeah,
It was just renewed. I think this is really a microcosm of how PDs are not great, and we should. I think that's.
You can use it as a case study.
Yes, it's a case study, and it goes to show how the market is telling us directly and indirectly, hey, we need to update our zoning. Because if we don't, we get things like PDs, and the PDs get a hodgepodge of land uses that are not compatible.
And it really impacts the ability for the area as a whole to improve.
Correct.
When you have these industrial pockets, it doesn't, our dream for the area and economic opportunity here is not, it does not jive with that type of.
And that's,
We are trying to move away from PDs.
Yeah.
I think this is gonna help a little bit. They can look at the zoning around the area correctly.
there might be some opportunities where the area could utilize and benefit from some of these. And I will say just real quick, to touch on a couple of the other comments about the transit-oriented development around the DART stations. That is definitely one of our focus areas through code reform. We had the parking reform recently, and as part of that, parking minimums were eliminated within a half mile of stations. And so that kind of addresses one of the pieces, one of the barriers sometimes. And then we are looking at that specifically through our code reform, how to encourage and have regulations and incentives, I guess, for that kind of development. So hopefully that will be addressed. And then I heard some comments about maybe a variety of housing types. That's something that we also encourage and want to have the tools to make that happen and provide opportunities for different housing types.
but going back to what Susanna says, the problem is that I run into this all over this. I go to these meetings and I hear people complain about it. One of the things in West Dallas is they got guys who park on residential streets and they're not supposed to, and that one of the things the guys will say is, well, I don't mind getting the fine, it's cheaper than parking. And so at that point, they have to go after the guy's driver's license and stuff like that, and that's how they're getting these guys to comply. And I'd hate that it had to get that ugly at that situation at that school over there, where they can't get any kind of city pushback, so they might have to go after you know, the guy's livelihood to keep them from parking over there. Other situations like we had a situation with the Gap factory. That was a whole thing. They had the downwinders going over there. They were protesting and they were saying, y'all got to get this out of this city. It would make sense back then. It doesn't make sense now. And then, unfortunately, what I've heard is Dallas has a business first mentality. So that means if you're business first, that means that residential gets treated like number two, literally and figuratively. So it's one of those situations where they sat there, they fought hard for it, they thought they had won something, and then I can't remember if it was the city or the state that they got overrode on that, and they wanted renewing their permit. So.
Well, so about GAF, I will say that there is an authorized hearing to consider the proper zoning for that area. I believe it kicked off. That's within our department, but a different group of folks who are handling that. So looking at the zoning for that area is something that we're doing. That'll be a public hearing process. And then environmental justice just in general is something, with industrial and residential.
It's a big pillar of
the zoning reform.
So in the zoning reform, which, for Dallas, a big pillar is obviously housing, TFDs, environmental justice. So all of these we can address in the zoning reform as much as we can. I think the problem that we have is that, especially in areas like West Dallas, we have a lot of residential that is zoned industrial. So that's where it goes into all sorts of problems. So
and that points back to what Michael was talking about. Back in the past, we know the history of the area, we know why that was put there, and why, you know, and it's a chance to get it right.
Will things be grandfathered in, and therefore we will never have really an opportunity to make a change?
So GAF and a lot of these,
I don't know what GAF is.
Gap, that's the shingle factory over in West Dallas.
that has a legal non-conforming laws.
Yeah.
And because they've been operating before it was annexed.
Yeah.
So yes, and state law changed and took away some of the or clarified, I don't know how to talk about it, that is correct, the way that you can deal with uses that are incompatible but do have non-conforming rights. So it became a whole thing, and we're hoping that the authorized hearing is gonna.
But within this zoning effort, that's a kind of motivating question, within this zoning effort, to the extent that within the zoning that gets defined, i.e. across the street, that should be
Like if we get rid of
not
PDs,
industrial,
our PD is going to exist.
right? We don't want to have to constantly be in a battle with having to argue back on these PDs, right? Or, you know, the SUPs, exactly. We want the city to say, okay, you have 10 years on this SUP, and oh, by the way, the zoning has changed, so you have you have to get out. I don't know, I mean, right? And that's just an overarching question as you guys are putting this together, because
Yes, so I would say that the good news with the SUPs is that the non-conformity goes away. The SUP expires and that's it, your use is illegal unless you approve another SUP. So there are different types of, like, there are uses that are allowed by zoning, and then they're not allowed when you change the zoning and they carry a legal non-conforming clause. And those are a little bit more complicated, especially now with the state law. When it comes with uses allowed by SUP, once they have an SUP, the SUP expires, or the SUP is revoked by city council, that's it, it becomes a
but in that case, the community still needs to be extremely engaged to push back, which we were, but we may not be here in 10 years, or however long this SUP was extended for example, for that, in that particular case.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but it's 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, so, well, then that one's good, but I'm just, I hope to be here in 2 years.
It did get shortened from 5 to 2 or 3. I have, like, don't quote me, but it's either 2 or 3. It used to be 5. Now it's 3
or instead of 10 or 15.
Right, and it's not fair to the community. You guys are putting us in the position of having to That's why it's zoned that way. I mean, that's why we attend these meetings. And we want you to hold people's feet to the fire to, follow what has been defined.
Another thing that I was gonna add is when things become so of such nature of incompatibility, sometimes new development helps because they can the market starts to phase them out and it doesn't make sense to be there. So I'm trying to put a bit of positive spin because you started it that way, saying, yes, these are the uses that we don't feel that are good for our community anymore. We want change and we want different mixed use. And usually sometimes things sort themselves out, but it is true that historically zoning was a barrier because we used to do it by use. Only here you can do only this thing and here you can do only this thing. So therefore the market is not going to go there. But once you loosen it up a little bit, and I keep on saying, maybe this is a good news, you loosen it up a little bit and allow a little bit of flexibility for things that may be good, then the market starts to shift and maybe the odd auction is not going to make sense because for a lot of reasons, they won't like to have multi-family neighbors or single-family neighbors that place 3 Walmart complaints on them every day. So usually that's what we're hoping. And I would say we haven't been in this situation before because city is so overzoned and it's so complex. And I'm saying, yeah, you can do only this thing here, and you're sending that message that it's so strict and it's so hard to do business that yes, the art auction is going to be the only thing that's viable at that location. I'm hoping that this is good news. Okay, I'll agree with that.
Yeah, so a couple of other things that we have intended to address through zoning reform was allowing for, as I mentioned, housing diversity. There should be a variety of housing types available. And for example, small lot, single family, not everybody wants a giant lot anymore. They would like to have a home, own a home and own the land underneath it, but they don't necessarily want a huge yard. And so that small lot also, that's an opportunity for more affordable home ownership options, ideally. So small lot, single family development, and then also allowing for multifamily, maybe in commercial corridors where multifamily is not currently allowed. So those are two things we were already looking at. Many cities have not been taking care of it and have been very resistant. So the state stepped in and said, hey, there's a housing shortage. We're going to go ahead and just take care of that with state law. So we will definitely amend our code, as part of this process to address some of these things, but the state law did step in and kind of tell us there are things we cannot regulate anymore. And so I'll just quickly kind of go through some of the key points. So SB Senate Bill 15, that is the Senate bill that addresses small lot, single family. And
so it's like a tiny home bill?
It's not really that, but
because currently about 5,000 square foot is what is smallest for us.
It's the
right?
smallest for us.
Right. So what would the lot size be?
So these are 3,000.
Okay.
Yeah. We do have a townhome district that's a little smaller, but this is kind of, exactly right. 5,000 square feet was our smallest single family lot size prior to this. So, sorry if I can't remember how to use the computer with people watching me. Okay, so the big picture on this one is that the city must now permit small lot subdivisions, but there are some qualifying factors. So this is for land areas. There must be at least 5 acres of land for it to be eligible, and it must be previously unplatted. So no previous plats. These are tracts of land, and this is intended to allow for subdivision of that into smaller lots for single family communities on smaller lots. And so when developing these, the state law does modify some of the development standards that would currently apply. And there are some locational exclusions, which we'll talk about.
Are
Yeah.
the slides accessible later?
They can be, yeah.
That's what,
yeah.
yeah, the sign-up sheet that we were talking
Yeah,
about, yeah.
We do, so a version of it is probably already online.
It's on the state website.
On this, oh yeah, we do have a state laws, even, I get to it by just Googling City of Dallas SB 840 and it'll take you there. We have some informational sheets and some illustrations. The actual bills are posted there, and then a presentation. That's a little more comprehensive than this one. So, if you guys want to study up, okay, I
Just
don't.
the arrows.
It's just the arrows. Sorry, I'm getting nervous and just pushing buttons. Okay, so the exclusions are within 3,000 feet of airports and 5,280 feet of police training facilities. That's very specific.
Yeah, they could have, that's 1 mile, so.
So what is exclusion?
It means that if you have a tract of land that's 5 acres and would qualify and wasn't platted or is not platted, is not eligible for the small lot development.
Why not?
If it's within those.
So that's FAA regulation?
Yeah, I think they were trying to be mindful exactly of probably airport noise, not to put more housing. I know.
And then-
So I'm your neighbor. I'm like, okay.
I mean, that
Density close
seems,
to.
Yeah.
yeah, but we already have we already have
Yes,
footprint
they've
with
been
that
there
density
from-
is what I'm getting at. So if they ever come through and say, oh, you know, there's some really rundown apartments,
Yeah.
and tear them down, what does
Well,
that
and so
because the housing is already there.
the housing is
They
already
can-
there,
Well, go
but
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was thinking you'd have more use in a multifamily going up versus single lots.
Right.
Yeah.
So like West Love,
Because I'm saying because it's already developed, I think
Yeah.
it
It's-
doesn't.
it's grandfathered in.
If the zoning allows the use, you can still do it. This is something that basically preempts your zoning. It's
But it would impact us to the extent that we want to do transit-oriented development at the Bachman station.
It depends.
Well, this is single family, so
Yeah.
it's
This is just the
disconnected.
bill about.
Oh,
This-
okay.
and this is developing on pretty much land that hasn't been previously developed. You know, it's unplatted, it's undeveloped land. So this isn't intended for redevelopment as the next bill we'll talk about kind of touches on.
so that's suburbs and farmland, mostly.
Yes, this will be.
Because that's what I was kind of confusing, because like this is already built, and like so that theoretically like West Love and Elm Thicket would be affected by this.
Not even, I think more like southern sector, District 8, the areas that are more zoned agriculture. Because that's where you would find like contiguous 5 acres.
Right, that already allows
single
family
and allows.
5 acres consolidated and not platted, and most of that
I
is.
think they're 5
We
acres
had
around this
6
airport to begin with.
inquiries about this bill.
It's not developed.
And they've all been.
No, there's
They've all
yeah.
been
This is
Yeah.
we're in the middle of the snow.
Would it impact, Ryan, is the area, the cement, area outside the mile?
Yeah, but also that's not gonna work for 840 either, I don't think so.
And so it's.
By the way, when we they're talking about the cement plant, y'all know where that is, the one off of Luna.
Oh, why not?
Okay. Because if you look at like a wind map, it's they put new developments in a multifamily unit over there, and they're right in like the breeze path.
I know that area, but you'll see that is exempted from the state laws as well. And keep in mind, like single family is not allowed in industrial, so this is
Except
only
what's already
applicable to areas that are also allowed.
Which we
which
ignored
is-
when we deployed.
This is just for single family. I don't think
No one
it's.
listens.
Yeah, I think it doesn't apply.
It mostly doesn't apply, so I don't know, should we just skip through
Yes,
those? And let's just go to
yes,
840,
yes.
because I think you may see more benefits from that.
Arrow.
Thank you. Okay, so SB 840 relates to multifamily and mixed-use residential development projects. And the big picture is this state law now requires the city to allow multifamily and mixed-use residential development in additional zoning districts where they're not currently allowed today. And it also limits our authority to regulate those developments, and we'll talk about that. And then it also streamlines the process of converting certain commercial buildings to multifamily housing. So in this bill, multifamily, it aligns with the city's definition of multifamily, which is really just 3 or more dwelling units on a lot, or a piece of property. And then mixed-use residential is defined as it's a non-residential, and 65% of the total square footage is residential uses. So it's a mixed-use project with residential and non-residential. So some things that are not affected by this are short-term rentals. This has no effect on that. Our mixed income housing density bonus program, we can still have that and enforce that. However, this bill actually kind of eliminates some of the, it gives some of the benefits of that without actually doing the program. So historic preservation, we can still apply regulations associated with historic preservation. And
we can still regulate like anything that's infrastructure, like stormwater mitigation. So yeah,
exactly.
It doesn't mean that you would put multifamily in a floodplain without any mitigation.
Yes, exactly. It's not an absolute free for all there. So,
Quick question. When you talk about STRs, right now, currently, when they were trying to mitigate that, it was directly affected towards single family zone, right? So when you have the townhomes that were, let's just say the HOA permits STRs and they're in MF2 zoning, even if there were regulation on short terms, it wouldn't affect them. They would still be able to bypass that, right?
Yeah.
Is this going to affect it or allow the city to further? Okay.
No, it means like whatever the city still allows the city to have local authority of how to regulate STRs.
Okay.
So prohibited, allowed, it doesn't, the bill doesn't preempt us or doesn't tell us what to do with them.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, so now this bill now allows multifamily and mixed-use residential projects in any zoning district that allows office, commercial, retail, warehouse, or mixed-use development. And so the current zoning districts, the straight zoning districts that allow those uses are listed here. It's our office, our neighborhood office, our limited office, our all of our office districts and all of our retail districts, and our lightest of the industrial districts, because it allows warehouse uses, that's LI, and then PDs, plan development districts, that also allow those uses are subject to this bill as well. So we cannot require through this bill, we cannot require that a project be mixed use. It doesn't have to include the non-residential component, but it can.
And I would say the good news for you is that I know you do, there is some CS, which is commercial service, right? And some light industrial, and of course CR, which is community retail, is probably the most used retail zoning designation. I know, like Walnut Hill and Northwest Highway, all of that is CR. So that right now is entitled through this bill, CSCR, all of those are now entitled through this bill to allow multifamily. So all of a sudden that land became a little bit more attractive. So that's why I'm saying maybe being on thoroughfares and on areas that are more prone to development, we're going to put that on caution way. You want to say? Because now you can do multifamily.
Right, exactly. So exclusions are, obviously zoning districts that don't allow office, commercial, retail, warehouse, or mixed use. So the residential districts, it doesn't affect.
And the cement area is heavy industrial?
It's heavy industrial, yes. So, yes. So heavy industrial districts. So we have identified those in our zoning code are the IR, industrial research, and industrial manufacturing. So those not allowed in those districts, also not allowed within 1,000 feet of a heavy industrial use.
So what we were trying to work through is trying to flip those heavy industrial districts that were adjacent to green spaces, because that becomes very attractive from a residential development perspective.
So I have a question without arguing the merits of it, just the code portion of it. Does this prevent zoning and development when doing the new code from being more lenient? Because the question just generally was, if you redevelop something that would then no longer be industrial or within 1,000 feet of industrial, but it is industrial right now, then no one wants to go through rezoning, you know, in heavy industrial to MF2 or whichever, but whether or not that could be incorporated and, you know, pitched and argued later, but that could be part of the new reform.
Yeah, and Megan will go into the standards that they preempted us. They're pretty low. They're a little bit bigger than an MF2 right now, but they're still pretty low. So I think considering the fact that this is a big city, especially your area is very close to downtown, uptown, like this is uptown, it will make sense to kind of like add extra stuff. So they did leave some room for us to add to make it more attractive. And then as to the industrial area, I have a lot of thoughts, and I think we talked a lot. It's gonna need a little bit more than just these bills and the zoning reform. We're gonna have to like look at that.
Yeah, I think what Ryan's point is, we don't want to get cornered through the zoning work that you guys are doing from being able to, in the future, make other moves.
We want to keep things flexible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the whole point of the,
That's why we did it,
to create more flexibility, but.
All right, so
What about city land? I'm sorry, if you go back and you have all these codes for how, it's.
Because I do have a question about that.
It's, whatever they were, you know, warehouses, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
What if it's the Northwest Transfer Station for sanitation? We want that to be.
Yeah, it depends on the
multi-use
zoning.
development.
Yes, so it depends on the zoning, like we have to apply to our zoning as well. A lot of them I've seen, I'm telling you, so I'm saying, like, we have crazy zoning in the city of Dallas. I've seen PDs for Dallas Water Utilities pump stations that allow only the pump station, and that's it. Just to make sure that nothing ever gets in there. And I don't know if we consider that a warehouse. I don't think SB 40 entitles that. I'll give you another example. The TOD's point, like the Forest Lane DART station that is a PD that only allows a DART station and the parking lot. This state law doesn't entitle it with multifamily, so it has to go through a rezoning. It goes back to the way we approach, and we like to say only this is allowed in here, and how harmful that becomes in the future, and what type of effect has on the entire thing, because again, Forest Lake Station is doomed to be just a parking lot with a bus station.
Yeah, I mean, that was parkland before it became.
So it depends what the zoning is there, and obviously when it comes to our property, obviously city council or whatever happens. We have to follow the zoning.
We would like it to be zoned for other opportunities. I
So
don't know if that has to get pinned on a map somewhere.
So but you're not going to get any interference from the SB bill, is what she's saying. So she's not going to get any state interference, but this is something that we'd have to bring up with our city council people, that they would have to push and then really fight to make it rezoned.
It depends what the zoning is. So if you give me examples, like I love it, and we can look at the zoning, and then it gives.
Well, like you just said, that forest, like you said, it's zoned for this, but that's not, even though it's set in ink, it's not set in stone. So it can be.
Absolutely, yes. See, DART as a landowner, I think they're the landowners. They can initiate their own rezoning, and then obviously council has the power. Only the property owner and city council has the power to initiate rezonings. So yeah, obviously the Forest Lake Station zoning can be changed. It's a matter of it has to go through a public process.
Okay.
And council is still good.
And we can't leverage this process to make that happen.
It doesn't do anything to them, other than to say the areas around it
Well, I thought
already
you guys-
allow it.
Well, I thought maybe I understood the intro. I thought you guys were going through looking at the different zones specifically on the map.
We're looking at the zones. This is creating a new code, so it's not immediately rezoning what's on the ground. What we can do in this process is say, you know, here are our 3 or 5 or 20 or 1 industrial zone. What do we actually want to include in it? In our ideal world, what's included in it? What are the dimensional regulations, et cetera? And then Councilmember Cadena and others will have a tool when people go through the public process or when the property owner wants to change, have a better tool to, well, we'll rezone to this or that kind of thing.
But given what you were saying in terms of the timeline is unknown, it would probably be better for us to submit the request to Councilwoman Cadena to initiate a rezone request for that.
That would actually start the conversation about true rezoning right away.
Okay. And then for TODs, we will address it via the zoning reform, and if there is something, I don't know, we're looking at everything and what can be as fast as possible, because we know that we have so much underutilized potential around our stations. So I'm hoping that will be faster.
All right. Just one more. So you're aware of what's going on down on Betty Jane Lane, where y'all had a government building that they tore down, and I guess they're going to develop that into multifamily housing. And there's been a lot of pushback from the people from the NIMBYs over there.
So the Betty Jane was actually, last night at 10 p.m. was denied without prejudice. It was the area around, so there was a tornado alley and the buildings were lost, and there is like an L shape that is right adjacent to the Wimberley Court neighborhood. The proposal is not for multifamily, it's for single family smaller lots. And yes, the neighbors fervently opposed it, and it was denied without prejudice last night. We'll see if they will come back. But it's not the corner that's very interesting. It's not the hard corner of Walnut Hill and Marsh. It's the area behind the corner is an L shape, which is smaller. So yeah, it would be ideal to have the entire corner actually developed into something, but it's not that. It was single family.
But it was single family, not multifamily. So you could actually go after it as multifamily now, because
they cannot, because their zoning is still single family. It's R16, single family large lots. So the zoning on the ground right there is 16,000 minimum square foot lots in that area. Which
okay.
Then again, we're talking about Marsh and Walnut Hill. We talk about like appreciated potential. So that's why we cannot do anything. Nothing, like none of these state laws entitle that property.
But to your point, the whole government building doesn't have the pushback because it wasn't zoned for single family. And so they're also developing that for townhomes, I believe.
I don't.
North on Marsh, behind the Wendy's.
Right, that's what I was talking about. That used to be a government building.
And so that doesn't have as much pushback.
And that was on Betty Jane. That's actually on Betty Jane.
I don't know about that. I know that there's
it's because people
development that it's coming across the street on Betty Jane.
I think Centurion
This was the one that was denied last night. There's another one that's coming.
Okay, so there's several. Okay, I didn't know that. Because they got people with signs that says no rezone, and they were really fighting
They
on.
were talking about the one that I'm talking right now. That was denied last night.
Okay, and then on top of that, so the other one off of Forest and Webb Chapel, they were also going to develop. There was I think where the Lutheran Church was. Mm-hmm. They're going to turn that into. They were going to turn it into a coffee shop or something like that, and that got pushed back. Okay.
Way too many NIMBYs.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Never enough.
Never enough. All right, so I'll just really quickly hit on this. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I won't go into great detail on all this. We can keep chatting or however you guys want. But as we said, the presentation is available if you guys want to study up. But basically, so SB 840 now allows multifamily in places where it wasn't previously allowed, and it puts regulations, or I guess it limits our authority to regulate certain aspects of development for the projects that are now allowed under SB 840 and all other multifamily projects that were previously allowed by the zoning. So with that, we can no longer limit density. We can't limit density, height, can't limit height to less than 45 feet. setbacks or buffers. We can't require setbacks that are greater than 25 feet. Floor area ratio, we can no longer regulate for multifamily or mixed-use residential projects under SB 840. And then parking, that was already kind of addressed through our zoning code in many instances. SB 840 does not allow us to require more than one parking space per unit, and our code already addressed most of that. So
To my point earlier, a normal MF2, MF1, which again are the most used in the city, the maximum height per code, it used to be what it is, 36 feet. The new state law says we cannot require less than 45, so now they just added an extra floor. We're hoping, it's gonna spur a little bit of interest. And I think that's what she thought.
yeah.
I know you just said it, but it didn't compute all the way. So you can limit height.
Only, but it cannot be less than 45.
Okay.
Yeah. And so residential proximity slope, I don't know how familiar you guys are with RPS, which is when you're adjacent to single family or, within
The line of sight slope, right?
Exactly, yes. So we can still apply that, but the way the bill's written, it affects how we apply it. So the RPS would still be calculated, so it's a slope, and then you would take the highest point you can reach under that slope, and that becomes the height across the side. So it does away with the slope, but it still caps the height a little, but not less than 45 feet.
So I would say if you have a CR, which is again the most common community retail you're gonna see, and you have a residential, single family residential in the back. CR allows 54 feet in height. Before the state bill, because of RPS, it was always like 26 or 30 feet. Now it is 45 feet or whatever. If the slope hits, if it enables more, but it's under 54, it can become higher. So again, all of a sudden, all of those like thoroughfare, thoroughfare where you see those retail strips, now they're a little bit more attractive to multifamily because you can actually build it up to at least 45 feet.
So I thought I saw something about not being able to limit height like less than the most that's allowed under the code. So did that get interpreted to mean the most under the code for each place type? Because don't we have some zoning that doesn't limit height at all?
So that's density. You cannot limit density. The density is you have to choose which is greater, 36 units per acre or the highest in your city. And because in the city of Dallas we have downtown that has no limitation, and even some of the mixed use for city of Dallas is going to be no limit on density. So that's dwelling units per acre. But when it comes to height, the state law says 45 feet. But again, it says 45 feet or whatever is the highest height allowed in the underlying zoning for an office building.
Okay.
So if you have GO, I think, which is general office, I think that allows 70 feet in height. So therefore, everything now becomes a multifamily becomes 70 feet.
But it is site specific.
It's site specific,
Okay.
45 feet's like 3 stories.
Yes, 45 feet.
So wait, it's saying that, so right now it's 36, right?
For NS2, multifamily.
Right.
That's it.
And so it's saying that they can go up to 45 now?
Yes.
So how does this apply to neighborhood stabilization overlays and other type of overlays that they've done over in Elmthig and things like that?
Right, so those are specific to single family. So NSOs are only applicable to single family. So it wouldn't have any impact on this. Yeah.
But for a conservation district or historic district, then we're gonna have to have a consultation with Jennifer here and make case by case determination, because it really depends on how the PD or conservation district or historic district is with.
Okay.
It's fairly straightforward in the base zoning districts, but it gets complicated when we're talking about other types of zoning.
But I would say, for instance, again, it's silent use, like an LI, and I think you have some in here, that allows 120 feet in height, so all of a sudden LI is over entitled with multifamily.
Okay.
If it
Well,
becomes
it's LI.
Like,
light industrial.
And I'll say from the perspective of the zoning reform, this is one of the first things we were going to do anyway. I mean, of course, we like to do it our own way if possible. The state said, you're not moving fast enough, here's how it's going to be. So on one hand, you know, it's one item less for us to do. We're still factoring it in, but it's an obvious win for housing units, you know. It's kind of a win for mixed-use neighborhoods. It can be. We are still wanting to be conscientious, and that's why we have the whole consultation process set up to make sure that it's done well. But you'll see if you go out to some of the suburbs, they're enacting so many regulations that, you know, they're trying to stop it. They're trying to be kind of obstructionist a little bit.
did you all identify kind of unidentified or unintended consequences to this? Because, I mean, given the partisanship of our state government, I was surprised by the move, which makes me wonder why they did it, because it couldn't have been just to help
I
housing.
think they negotiated so much, a lot, they negotiated a lot. Like the industrial portion was added to make sure that it was those portions. And it's good again for equity and unintended consequence. That is a big one. Like you would end up otherwise with multifamily and industrial. You know, heavy industrial like multifamily near concrete Bachman. That's a big unintended consequence. So I think they took care of that. I welcome that. I think that's a good thing that they did. I don't know, like I would, to my taste probably, I would prefer to add some design standards to like, okay, but they didn't prohibit us to do that. Like for instance, for the mixed income housing bonus, if you take the bonus, it comes with design standards, meaning your first floor units need 60% of them need to have access from the sidewalk. You need to provide wider sidewalks. Like these are good things. They didn't take that away. But as I said, a lot of the suburbs started to go a little bit more overboard with those design standards to make it a little bit like very pricey and prohibitive. A lot of the suburbs, for instance, they put a minimum number of stories to also put it as a barrier to entry. So we'll see. I would say that probably they will come in the next legislature and try to counter some of that. That's why we are trying to we've been told we need to comply. Now we're going to try to make it as good as possible. I will also say that during Foreign Dallas engagement, all the neighbors, it was a unified front. Even now they are speaking and they say multifamily belongs on thoroughfares and in commercial areas, and I think the bill does that. I think that I'm hoping that everybody will embrace, because that's what the communities in the entire city said. Put it on thoroughfares, put it in downtown. And that's what the bill does, so we'll see.
And on the political level too, I think we see all the time, of course, it's developers who develop, of course. And there's a supply side argument to do something like this too, so I think maybe they overlapped in that way. Of course, that working for things where we suggest, what if you have a corner store, coffee shop in your neighborhood or something like that, all the way up to, what if you had this great big apartment complex, everything. A lot of people do turn out, and say, well, it's just free to develop. We're saying, well, we also need housing units, and if you're not going to buy the land and build it, someone has to do that kind of thing. So anyway, I think this is a very clear instance of overlap of interests, and so we want to race forward and encourage it.
Another thing that stated, we have two laws, this one and another one. They said that you're allowed to convert an office, retail, and is it warehouse too? Or just office and retail and warehouse to multifamily. Which, I think that was bipartisan from the beginning. But that's why they stuck it in two laws, right? They have one law just for that, and then it's also stuck in here. So everything that's exactly office building that you would see, because office comes and goes, you never know how the market is, and if it's palatable to transform it or to do adaptive use to multifamily. Now the law tells us that we cannot, that is very strict. We cannot even tell them, they have to comply with fire codes and all of that, of course, but we cannot say you have to overmarket it. Nothing.
Right. It really streamlines the process to converge.
Yes.
So Andrea, you said you took a look at this area. You probably all did. What were your observations?
Oh, it's a hodgepodge. Like you have low zones. Like I saw like the low parcel that has only like CS and then it's surrounded by. But you do still have some IR, some industrial research that comes dangerously close. I think there is a big area that's multifamily, which now I'm hoping with the state law maybe we'll see a little bit of redevelopment. Lemon is all over the place, but it's okay. It's a hodgepodge.
Well, like,
Yeah, is that big green spot, is that marsh? Like at the northeast corner of the airport?
Gosh, how can you tell? That's all we
You may have guessed green is, those are the areas that would qualify
That's
under 840. Red doesn't qualify, that's predominantly single family. We have a lot of single family. And then the gray areas are plan development districts, so that's kind of a site-by-site basis.
Wait, so that's Denton and kind of everything west of Dart and south of Walnut Hill?
So you see where you see that hashed area, that's because that's the airport area. So that's kind of like where a little bit of that captures some existing multifamily, but again, it's a little bit like that.
so did y'all have any questions about the green belt? Because we also have development over there where there's I guess Northwest Highway, and they're getting ready to put the quick trip in over there, and then we've got they got apartments that they're putting in over there with the trail and everything.
So what's the question?
I guess, so do y'all have any questions about the zoning or anything? Okay.
We're
kind of bills.
Yeah, but we're good
Yeah.
on that one.
We're also available, anytime to reach out to us with specific questions to specific properties.
Another good thing is, for instance, that it would have been impossible for us to take on one. The zoning reform is going to touch on base zoning, not on fees and not on big restrictions. We also have the zoning layer in season. We have a lot of big restrictions that prohibit multifamily. The state law says any zoning designation, so those big restrictions don't apply anymore because we cannot enforce something that violates state law, which is something that we wouldn't have been able to do unilaterally. We would have had to come and change each of them. So state law just came and wiped all of those out with respect to multifamily. Every time we talk, a lot of round table, developers, everybody, it's a little bit different. It's still nobody knows what's going to come out of it. I can tell everybody, please, now that you have the flexibility, please design something beautiful, mindful, good design, be respectful to the neighborhoods, because that, we need to be good neighbors, right? If we keep on, my fear is that we're gonna get a sea of parking and just a little multifamily. That's my fear. My fear is not the other way around, that we get too many units and less parking. It's always, even when we did the parking reform, in our studies where we looked, it was always over parked, and it was always like, oh, let me have a sea of parking. And that is never.
Is your group do urban planning? Is that what your group does?
We do have the urban design group as well. Yes, with us.
Which used to be your town.
Yes, so we're one department now.
Okay.
Do you have examples that you're studying, like say in places like Addison, where you have street parking and you have maybe garage parking within the structure, so it's not a parking lot, before you get to the structure, and then neighborhoods that have tree-lined streets, but your shops are below. I mean,
Like in Indiana, there was that one city.
What do you think are best case scenarios?
Yes, I think we have a lot of that in Dallas as well. Is that we overregulated so much and we tended to ask. Like for instance, the bill doesn't allow us to require structured parking or underground parking. That to me is an unintended consequence, because even with the parking, but it doesn't say anything about parking behind the building. So with the parking reform, we fell short of adding that as a design standard. So I'm hoping with the zoning reform, we're gonna add that. I think the simplest, I asked everybody, and I'm asking you the same. What do you think, in your opinion, what is the simplest thing that can be done that has the biggest effect on the quality of the urban space? And everybody says, my own opinion is that it's parking behind the building. And everybody I'm asking says the same.
I say trees.
Yes, but again, if you have trees and then a parking lot and a street, it's gonna do a little bit, but not enough. But if you have trees and then an active use, then you have a little bit more shade, you have people looking at the street.
Oh, I thought you were saying like quality.
Yes,
Absolutely. Well,
And
it's-
to me,
well,
like, especially because we're in the heat cone here.
Yes.
100%.
And for us, and there are no trees
Yes.
on the streets, and the city doesn't plant trees because you have to have a sprinkler system, and you can't get them in the medians, and, I mean, yeah, that's a nice.
There's a variety of reasons that we don't have enough street trees. I'm from Virginia originally, and it's I'm dying over here. It can get pretty rough. A big one on that, because a lot of people do say, the biggest thing that are impacted is just street trees, just having it out there. We have aged utilities. Back in the day when we didn't think we really needed street trees or something like that, and we didn't think we needed sidewalk. And to plant a tree means rerouting utilities or
Easements.
all sorts of things.
Yeah.
It gets complicated and expensive fast. And so that's behind the scenes what gives us headaches. We're still working on our relationship with transportation and public works, because we bring a lot of ideas that just get complicated sometimes when you get to that level. But it's an important question that's just asking, and everyone does have different answers too. But I'm with you on trees.
So you're saying parking behind the building could be a design standard that's implemented that's not blocked by this?
Right.
Yeah, they let us do
That would
that.
be cool.
They
I
don't
just-
say anything, let's hope they won't
But what do
say
they call it? The Texas donut?
Yes.
So that's the thing you don't want to have happen?
I love that actually. The Texas Donut, I think it's one of the best things that came out of the Texas when it comes to design standards, because you cannot see the parking.
Yeah.
And it gives attention to the public right away.
We just can't require it in SB 15 regulated parcels. We can't say you have to have structured parking.
Yeah, and some groups, they like I said, they hate the Texas donuts because they wanted that to be like a common space or something like a green space, but
I agree, and I think it evolved so much since the developers started to do the Texas Donut. Like in the beginning, if you look at in like the 90s and how they do it now, they became so skilled to put maybe the garage only in one and have a big courtyard here. Like you would see just like Google Earth. I think I am very thankful that the developer market learned to perfect that model, because I think it's a good model. Obviously, we cannot require it, but we can ask for parking behind the building. It can be surface, it's okay.
no, I like Indiana where they put theirs under, so.
Yes, that is something that we do have, especially in Uptown, in all those little sub-districts, we always have required underground. I don't think, I mean, it's built, but for the new ones, I don't think we would be able to enforce it because of this one. So that's a mandatory consequence, but I'm hoping that again, that is my message to all developers. Please do something nice now that all, like a lot of the hurdles are lifted. Let's see what can be done.
So will you guys be working with DART on the transit-oriented development? Who are you working with? And how do we get a seat at that table for Bachman and Walnut Hill?
And we can put you in contact. So we have
I've been
various
trying
contacts
to
in
get,
DART.
Patricio is like, does not respond. I don't know.
So we have somebody who used to do code amendments with us, by the way, Beth Nelson. She's now the real estate manager over TVs. She's new. She started a few months back. We work with her on some stuff. We work with a lot of people depending
We
on.
want to share with DART the plans, the overall kind of concept for the area and why we think it's an opportunity. The skate park is right there, and we're right next to a park. They have a huge parking lot at Bachman.
I mean, would you say DART's typically on board? Because, I mean, I saw Buckner Station worked, but that was because it was also a lot of city involvement. Like they did a lot of the gap
There's a variety
funding.
of funding that needs to happen. We need to get our regulations out of the way too. Like I think we had to do.
It was a zoning case. If we have to do a picnic from that.
Getting the number one thing that they asked us to do was get parking out of the way,
Yeah.
and so we've done that around rail stations, which is good. They also asked us for maximums because DART has to work with the developer, and very often the developer wants to do big surface parking lots and that kind of thing. So they're trying to move ahead. I think they're identifying 5 additional sites to really put their energy toward, but they're also doing mobility hubs, and so it's being exciting. I think we're happy to set you up with people. I'm not sure if you say this, but we
I
can
think
mentor
Brian
some.
and I will really be.
We'll tell Pam and
Yeah.
we'll tell DART, and if they have a way to.
I think
Because
Walnut
I'm
Hill and
assuming
Bachman.
every-
Yeah, I think Walnut Hill was one of the ones that we're part of that RFP that ended up with Buckner. But I'd like Bachman to be part of that too.
Yeah, after the tornado, there was that study, Michael was the name that they did with planning and the landscape or the urban design groups across the country.
Oh, ULI.
The ULI, they did a ULI study and very much focused on Mullen Hill. There's been so many studies in this area, and including the Bachman study. Everything talks about economic development, but it's not happening. And
That and the sidewalk
That would be an
plan.
example of an area where, I mean, you don't even have a grocery store. You have to go to Marsh. And then, where even the residents who may not want something in their streets can have something closer than the other mixed use and residential populations.
Grocery stores are a great example of how zoning intermingles with the market. So often there's subsidy asked for just to get a grocery store or something like that, because they look at how many spendable dollars are in the area, blah, 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 and areas like the southern sector totally get jilted as far as what they can have in the neighborhoods, because there's not the density, and then there's not the density because they don't have grocery stores, and it's a horrible cycle.
Yeah. As you guys are conducting these meetings, are you guys recording or tracking comments, concerns?
We'll publish them on the website.
Oh, they are?
We
Okay.
already started with one. There are
We
petitions going on, so you may see the same comment or the same petition, but
Okay.
we said in full transparency, council asked us to do it, we will.
Okay.
And there's a variety of types of meetings, like for instance, we were invited to this one.
is that what these are for?
Yes,
Yes,
so,
we will-
yeah, if you
we
want to
will
leave
see.
comments, we really left you those, if you
Oh,
want to leave us your
information.
information
Okay.
there, you can be in contact.
But if
add
you
to
wanna
the
add comments on
email
those, we
list for
will.
the project.
I cannot stress this enough, like we have placed a comment on the website for the zoning reform. Please, I think the power is in numbers, to like have it in there, we're gonna like do a cutoff probably every month and then publish all those comments. Just hit comments in there every time you have an idea, because everybody's gonna see it, we're gonna document it. Even if you don't have time to participate in meetings and stuff, just put comments in there. I had an idea last night. I would love this area. I would love this. Like anything, because you'll see. I think you already published the first.
They published the first
installment.
batch, and there are good comments, and you also see some repetitive comments where groups will put out a template and they'll say, if you want this, then you'll get this engagement, you'll get this input. And so we want to make sure that we're getting authentic comments, whatever the opinion is, and a good variety of it. Because we will be asking, the council members will ask for each topic. And we want to be able to say, well, Susanna Brown showed up and gave us her, and here's how it impacted as best as we can. Right. They'll say, yeah, but
When are you moving? 2 years from now?
go onto the website, there's a QR code and the actual email, web address on the back, and sign up for the email. And again, I'm sorry to steal the show there.
No,
Just zoning
no, but I
reform,
think-
just really quickly.
Yeah.
Sign up for the email list, because that's where you're going to find out about more community meetings, releases of documentation, and everything. Was there anything else in this speech?
No, I think we really hit on the main points.
Well, thank you for your time. I've stayed too long.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. We're happy to do it, and we appreciate your interest and passion.
Yeah, you have my email.
Yeah, I do.
And yeah, let's close. If anything, just
I think we talked at the design district. You were at the design district meeting about they were going to put up the art things and everything.
not really us. Though with the art things in the design district, that's what you're asking.
Yeah, no, it was another meeting in March. I thought I seen you there. I had talked to Sabine and someone else was over there too. Okay.
Thank you all so much.
I can take y'all's cars that way.